Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's me, Chillixion.
Oh my god, you're actually making a video.
Yeah, I know, it's been a minute. 11 months, to be exact.
What have you been doing this whole time?
Funny you ask. I've been doing music this whole time. I've been making songs consistently, releasing them on my YouTube channel. You should check them out. And I even released an EP called the Chillixion Variety Pack EP. It's a collection of 6 songs that I really think you'll like at least one of them. You should check it out. Link in the description on YouTube and Soundcloud, and even there'll be a link at the end of this video right here. But I'm back, finally, for a very special video. So on TikTok, I did this little challenge where I was going to watch every single Pixar movie in chronological release order, one a day. I started it in August, and I finished it a week ago, so obviously it didn't work. Look at my cut, yo, what the fuck? Well, I finished it, and instead of making a really short TikTok video summarizing my thoughts on all of them or forcing you guys to watch the TikToks to get my opinions, I decided to make one big video talking about every single Pixar movie. Now, for a little bit of background, before I started the challenge, I've seen a good majority of these Pixar movies, either as a kid or just on my own time. But even more, I either haven't seen or I didn't remember jack shit from. So it was sort of a semi-blind experience. A lot of the times I knew how it was going to happen, but I haven't seen it recently enough that I knew exact details or I knew how it was going to make me feel. So anyway, I'm going to be talking about these films in the order I ranked them, from number 25 to number 1, from worst to best, so you guys know what I really think about Pixar's catalog and why this took so long. You will figure it out. So, without further ado, here's my ranking of every single Pixar film. Oh, hold up. I have not done this in a while, but hit it. Yeah. Number 25, Cars 2. Yeah, I don't think anyone's surprised if you know me in the slightest. Cars 2 is easily the worst Pixar movie. It's easily one of the worst films I've ever seen, and that's not hyperbole or an exaggeration. I'm being dead ass right now. When I got in my chair to watch Cars 2 for this little video, I wasn't excited. Okay, I wasn't a big fan of the original Cars, and I remember what Cars 2 is about, and I wasn't intrigued. I didn't really care, but I didn't think the feelings that would have came out of me would have came out of me.
Pause. What the fuck?
This movie, they don't have to be Cars. I'm just gonna be honest, they don't have to be Cars. This has very little to do with Cars. It's just a spy movie where the characters so happen to be Cars, and it makes it worse. That's the thing that gets me mad. It makes it worse that they're Cars. Like, the second you think about it for a little more than a second, it falls apart. It completely goes into shambles. The amount of car puns and car jokes in this stupid-ass car world makes me car mad. Also, Mater's a terrible character. I don't like him, not even in like, I love to hate him. No, I hate to hate him. Movie's garbage. It's so bad, I cut it off halfway through. I didn't finish this movie, and I don't give a shit. I'm not gonna watch Cars 2 again. If you think Cars 2 is anything above a 25, actually watch the movie again, because it's not fun. I don't care what you think. Next, number 24, Cars. Okay, yes, I did kind of spoil that I wasn't a big fan of the first Cars movie either in my last little talk, but, you know, this movie's just not good, man. Now, it's not so much as an unbridled rage like I have for Cars, but it's just simple things that it makes this film not enjoyable to me. I don't like any of the characters. I mean, Lightning McQueen is a okay protagonist. He's pretty hateable sometimes, but not in the way where you want to see him change or where his eventual change gets you on his side. He's just a dickhead. But the worst thing is that he's the character I like the most. I hate every single character in that goddamn town. They are either annoying stereotypes or actually detestable. Honestly, I don't know which one's worse. And we spend so much time in this town that I don't like that it just makes the entire film not enjoyable. The visuals are pretty uninteresting. I mean, it just kind of looks like an Illuminations movie, to be honest. There's nothing really stand out about the visuals in this movie. That's not even talking about the car world building. I went on a whole Twitter rant about it, Jesus Christ. I don't like cars. At all. Next, number 23, The Good Dinosaur. This is one of the movies that I knew absolutely nothing about. Like, I'm being dead serious. I didn't know the plot. I didn't know the main character's name. I think I knew the critical reception. People thought it was mediocre. And when I finished the movie, I kind of left with less than I entered with it. I don't remember the main character's name, and I barely remember the plot. That's how memorable The Good Dinosaur is. As a story, yeah, okay, it can be interesting. You know, the story of this dinosaur and this kid hanging out, going on a journey. That can be fun. It wasn't, though, because I didn't care about the characters at all. I can't really talk about standout moments I had while watching this movie because it didn't give me any standout moments. I mean, the one moment I can vividly remember is when the main character's dad is going up to that mountain cliff and he's like, "We gotta find the caveman boy," and it's raining. The entire time I was thinking, oh, he's gonna die. This dad's gonna be dead. He's dead. And then every single second that he didn't die, I was like, oh my god, do they think I'm stupid? He's dying, obviously. And I'm not just being like the pretentious film guy who, oh, I know everything because this film is so predictable. I'm usually not good with that. I thought the bad guy in Big Hero 6 wasn't the twist. I'm not the smartest. But I don't know, that scene is kind of indicative of the Good Dinosaur storytelling. It's not really thoughtful. It seems kind of just like a basic movie, like a first draft. Like they could have, you know, made it way better if they just spent a little more time on it. Next, okay, I'm gonna try to not get mad, but number 22 is The Incredibles 2. And this movie is dead ass insulting to me. And I'm sorry if that seems pretentious or if it seems like I'm an asshole. I don't care. The Incredibles 2 makes me fucking mad when I watch it. As a sequel to a really good movie, it sort of destroys the foundation in a way. It takes place immediately after the first Incredibles movie and undoes a lot of its thematic building blocks. Like the entire end of the first Incredibles was like, oh, it's up to interpretation, you know, they're still superheroing, you know? But then they say, actually, we're restarting the characters back at ground zero. And I get that was the point, but that's not a good point. They shouldn't have done that. Kind of felt like a lot of the character growth that came from the first Incredibles movie was either undone or completely ignored for the sequel. And you know what? I can commend them. Making a movie about Mrs. Incredible pretty good. It's pretty entertaining sometimes. I'm not gonna say I was hating on the entire movie from this first second it started. It was pretty entertaining at sometimes. But it's just, the idea of the film is like, why did this have to exist? It just feels like a cash grab. Hell, even the villain, why was that the villain? What did that have to do with the rest of the movie? But Incredibles 2 is very beautiful. The animation is stellar. And Mrs. Incredible's got yams for days, so I'm not complaining. Well, I am, because it's a pretty bad movie. Next, number 21, A Bug's Life. Okay, finally, we're getting into the movies that are no longer bad and are just mediocre. A Bug's Life was the second movie I watched on this little journey, and, you know, originally, I wasn't like, this is the most mediocre Pixar film ever, it's bad. I just watched it, and I was like, oh, okay, that was a movie. And it eventually got to number 21 just by constantly having movies that were better than it. A very similar issue that I had with The Good Dinosaur is that A Bug's Life just felt like a first draft. It felt like just the most basic movie ever. The story's okay, the characters okay, the visuals okay, the music's really good, but the rest of the film is just it's just kind of there. It doesn't really explore anything past the surface level, and I think that's why I have it so low. It's a fine movie for kids. You can put it on if you're babysitting. You know, the kid's not gonna complain, and you're gonna have a pretty okay time. You know, you might be on your phone if you're bored a few times, but you're not gonna hate it. It's not gonna be insulting. But it's just not very interesting at all. The one thing I can say about A Bug's Life that was quite interesting was the protagonist. Flick is a relatable character. He goes through relatable struggles, and I get him, but I think he could have been elevated if the movie just tried digging deeper into its themes and its story, just a little more, a little under the surface, and it could have reached great heights. But sadly, A Bug's Life is kind of just there. Next, number 20, Monsters University. Okay. This movie is not that bad. I remember watching Monsters University when it first came out, and I liked it. And I thought I was going to really like it now. And I kind of like it. Its explorations of the characters of Mike and Sully in their younger years is very interesting, and especially as a prequel, this works really well. The world it creates for a monster college is very well thought out and detailed. The world building is really good in this movie. The visuals are good. It's a fun film. The music is good. The ending is actually one of the most bone-chilling moments in Pixar's history. Like that final scene in the cabin where Sully's, trying to scare and Mike's hyping him up. That actually sent chills down my spine, and I love that moment. I swear to God, I think I rewound it like 3 times when I saw it originally. But the one thing that holds this movie back, and that brings to number 20, is the middle. That is the most boring part of the film. Like, I deadass knew what was happening, got up, went to my bed, took a nap, woke up. The scare games were over. I already knew what happened. And not because I seen it, but because they made it painfully obvious. There was nothing interesting. I didn't miss anything, and that's never good. But yeah, Monsters University isn't terrible. It has a good beginning, a really good ending, but it's just jogged down by a middle that is just mid. But yeah. Next, number 19, Onward. Okay. Onward is an interesting one. Onward is the movie where I realized I was in the era where I was already watching these films on my own time, on my computer, like how I was watching the other movies for this challenge. So I already knew what happened in the movie. And I don't know if that affected how I felt about it, but Onward was not really fun to watch at all. Don't get me wrong though, it had some really good parts all over, not just in the beginning and end like Monsters University. It had some really good highlights, but as a whole film experience, it's just kind of there. I think some of the best bits of the film is how it uses an urban fantasy world to, bring the creativity out of the film. It sort of transports you there, and you can sort of see all the inner mechanisms of it in every scene. I also love Tom Holland's character. He is relatable, he is fun, and you want to root for him. Whenever he succeeds, you feel like you succeed, and that's really admirable in the protagonist. But then Chris Pratt's character is actually the worst fucking guy I've seen in my life. Like, okay, I get it, he's supposed to be annoying, but I was legitimately annoyed in real life. I wanted to slap him. He's not on Mater levels of annoying. I mean, there were some times I was like, he's a good brother, and the ending of the film was actually heart-wrenching. I was like, yeah, this feels good. But as a whole, Onward is not a film I would watch again. So yeah, its boring moments aren't as bad to make me fall asleep like Monsters University, but it doesn't have enough great moments to excuse those boring moments. Next. Okay, don't yell at me, but number 18 is up. I know people love this movie. I'd like it too. Okay, number 18 is a good ranking, okay? Everything else, these are good movies. Hell, Onward was a good movie, but Up just... Okay, let me explain. When you begin the film, Up is amazing. It's one of Pixar's best. It's sort of a silent film in a way, where it tells the life story of this old couple. They're going from being young to being old and the eventual death of... What was his name? Carl? What the fuck was his name? I'm actually looking this up right now. Carl, I was right. To the eventual death of Carl's wife. And that portion is dead ass one of the best things Pixar has ever made. The first, 5-10 minutes of the movie, beautiful. And after that, it's a very enjoyable journey. You get to see beautiful visuals of beautiful music and really enjoyable characters. But it's just not as good as the beginning. And that's the thing that sort of bogged it down in my eyes. I mean, I was enjoying it, but I wasn't like, this is great. This is great. I was like, this is good, but I could skip it. A part of me deadass wanted to skip a few parts. There's nothing really bad enough. The worst moments in there are just moments that you could honestly not have in there. But trust me, if that first 10 minutes was its own short film, it would be in the top 5. I'm so serious right now. Didn't make me cry though, which is interesting. But yeah, Up is a good movie, but it's just not as good as the other ones on this list, which, you know what? this is gonna make some people mad because the next one is number 17 is Cars 3. Okay, I know I went out a rant on how Cars 2 and Cars 1 were the worst films in Pixar's catalog, but Cars 3 is a good movie, y'all. And the reasons why it's fun are the reasons why the first two are garbage. Unlike Cars 2, it goes back to the Cars plotline, and unlike Cars 1, we travel, we explore, and also we get rid of those garbage characters. I don't think Mater has like 10 minutes of screen time in this film, which is the greatest thing ever. We focus a lot of time on Lightning McQueen as a mentor, which means he's already at the point that he was at the end of Cars 1, where he was kind of enjoyable, and then he has a character arc to be really enjoyable. The world it crafts, it's like they learned their lesson from Cars 2. They don't spend their time trying to make human things car things, they just make car things that would work in a car world. And Cruz is one of my favorite protagonists in these movies. She's enjoyable, and we don't start off with her too. That's the thing. We end up meeting her, you know, around in the first act of the film, near the end of Act 1, and we get to love her. She is my daughter. I don't care what you say. She's a car. I don't give a And seeing her journey is really fun, and the emotional end of Act 2 isn't cliche. I actually liked it. And that final act, that final race, it felt like a sports movie. And I was genuinely hyped. I was jumping in my seat. I was yelling. I was clapping. I was so happy. And just the fact that it gave me those emotions automatically elevates it to being a very good movie. So yeah, Cars 3 is a good movie. You know, it's not great. It doesn't do anything exceptional. It's still pretty just okay, Pixar standards, but it's fun. And I think comparing it to the first two Cars movies just means I get to gas it up all the more. But yeah. Next, number 16 is Brave. Now, niggas hate this movie. I'm just gonna be dead ass. Niggas fucking hate this movie. I don't know why. This movie is fun. I'm just gonna be alright. This movie is a fun fantasy romp. It has enjoyable characters, it has a fun story, it has a really good soundtrack, and it has really good visuals. The biggest gripes I've seen with Brave is that, oh, the characters aren't enjoyable, but I just can't get that. I mean, they're fun. Meredith is your classic fantasy protagonist. She wants to do something great, but her society says she can't. And her mother is understandable in her worries, but also does that isn't understandable at all, so you get both perspectives. And yes, her mother turning into a bear is a little silly, but I can be fine with silly. And the side characters, you know, the king and his men, they're fun. They're not exceptional, but I was never really annoyed by them. And the story, I actually think is really good. I mean, the plot twist, I didn't see coming. And just the fact that that happened, my jaw dropped. And I think that's what elevated it so high. I don't know, Brave just hits certain buttons for me. I don't know, I'm a big fan of the vibe that the movie gives. And it was a fun movie, so I just think it deserves a little bit more love. So yeah, Brave's pretty good. Next, number 15 is Inside Out. Okay, Inside Out is good. It's a good movie. It has fun characters. It has a good story. It is visually very good. The soundtrack is very good. It's not great though. I'm not gonna say it's great. And I think a big reason why it's so low is probably because of the expectations that I had for it. I remember when it came out, people were saying Inside Out is one of the greatest Pixar movies of all time. The biggest thing that bogged this movie down for me was the location. The setting of Riley's mind, you know, is interesting, it's colorful, but the vibe just doesn't gel with me. And I know that's not professional or analytical, but I just didn't vibe with it. I don't know, but hey, I like the characters. I saw a few people who were annoyed with Sadness as a character, and yeah, I got annoyed, but I wasn't like mad at her, you know? I was like, okay, this is the point, this is what the writers want me to feel, and they are succeeding. So yes, occasionally when I was watching a movie, I was yelling at my computer screen because Sadness was doing some bullshit, but I was like, this is good. I'm enjoying that I'm getting these emotions. It's not like a Mater, where I literally hate him and I would strangle him if I saw him in real life. It was more like understandable frustration. And the ending of the film almost made me cry, which I'm surprised it didn't. But I'd say Inside Out is like the perfect middle of the road Pixar movie. It's not, mediocre, but it's like an average Pixar movie. It gets the emotions, it gets the characters, it gets the fun, it gets the comedy, it gets every angle that Pixar comes at. And it does a pretty good job. Next, okay, this, I don't know what the critical receptions this one is, but number 14 is Finding Dory. I swear to God I was gonna hate this movie. I thought all the unwarranted sequels, like The Incredibles 2, was going to be in my bottom 5. I didn't hate this movie though. It was fun. It told an interesting story. Dory is a fun character. She's more enjoyable in this movie than in the original. Yeah, the movie doesn't really do anything exceptional, and it's nowhere near the quality of the original Finding Nemo, but it's still a fun movie. I like the new characters it introduces. Yes, I know people are a little bit annoyed by them, but they're funny. Like, the fact that I cared about each character while I was watching the movie means that it couldn't have been that bad. And the emotions that it got out of me during that final act it was pretty good. I liked it. Yes, there are some annoying parts. The main, was his name Merlin or Marty? God, Merlin? Like the wizard? Marlin. That's why I was fucking me up. Marlin in this movie is actually the worst. Finding Dory is fun. It's enjoyable. I don't hate it. It was pretty good. Next, number 13 is Soul. Okay, we're getting into the really good ones. These are the movies that I rated 4 out of 5s or above, which is really good. Don't think about it like a fraction, please. You're thinking too hard. Now, Soul is the one movie that I know went down in my rankings. I watched Soul originally when it came out, like the day it came out, and then I immediately had a discussion about it on Discord, and I loved it a lot more when I first saw it than now. Maybe it was recency bias, maybe something changed in me, but Soul just didn't hit the same. And I think we all know what part of the movie kind of brings it down. It's that stupid cat psych. It's the sort of afterlife dreamscape. Yeah, I actually really enjoyed Joe being in the cat's body for the movie. That was fun. That was enjoyable. Those were actually some of my favorite parts of the movie. But it was the afterlife dreamscape otherworldly thing that wasn't really my cup of tea. Whenever we were in it, I was like, okay, can we go back to the real world? Can we go back to the philosophical discussions about the meaning of life and art? Can we go back to the music, please? This movie's biggest strengths are its themes and its characters, and whenever we're in the afterlife thing, we kind of stop talking about those. We kind of just focus on the jokey side characters or the immediate fantasy conflict, and those are kind of the movie's weakest bits. But in its heights, Soul is a masterwork. Its use of jazz and music is as a musician myself, it is just amazing to see a movie accurately describe the musical process. The movie's willingness to explore what is basically the meaning of life and to make Joe, the protagonist, wrong for a good majority of the movie, and not slightly wrong. He is dead ass just terribly wrong for a good portion of the movie, is something I could commend Pixar to do. When the movie wants to, and it really explores its deep moments without the fantasy overlay, it is a masterpiece. That whole moment where Joe is talking to his mother and it switches from the woman's voice to his voice is beautiful. It is dead ass one of the most heart-stopping moments in Pixar. I was like, wow, they really did it. They knew what was going to let us connect to this moment, and they did it. And that's beautiful, you know? Soul is really good. Next, number 12 is Luca. Now, Luca is another movie I watched on Disney Plus when it first came out, and it actually went up, interestingly enough. When I first watched Luca, it was fun, it was just a fun movie. But then when I rewatched it, I was like, oh shit, this is a great movie. And I know it's probably been said millions of times, but Luca gives massive Ghibli vibes. It's not really about the story, okay? It's about the characters, and those characters are amazing. From Luca to Alberto to the lesbian girl to what's her name? I gotta look up Luca girl name. No, Pixar. Julia. Who's Julia? From Luca to Alberto to Julia to the dad. These characters are amazing. And yes, for a lot of these movies, I was like, this movie doesn't really delve into the themes very much. And Luca does. It delves into the themes a lot. But the best parts of the movie aren't even when that happens. It's just when the characters are hanging out. It is a good vibe movie. And if you've been on my channel for a lot, you know that I fuck with vibes a lot. And the vibes Luca gives is good. I think I was doing an accent. There wasn't really anything in this movie that I disliked. At worst, I just ignored it. But at best, I loved it. Next, number 11 is Turning Red. Pixar's most recent release, and the reason why this is a top 25 and not a top 24, Turning Red is amazing. Probably hundreds of videos explaining why Turning Red is so good, but I loved this movie. The vibes were amazing. Like, I'm just gonna go through the checklist. The characters. I loved every single character in this movie. It was insane. And I don't mean I liked every single one of them. I loved every single one of them. The story was really intriguing. The visuals were some of Pixar's best. And the music, oh lord, it is a soundtrack of nothing but bangers. And what this movie is doing for stopping the stigmatization of stuff like periods and women's health, especially during puberty, is just so important for the culture. This movie's gotta be one of the best. And I'm seeing a lot of hate for it. Let me just say this. Y'all are corny. Y'all are cornballs. Get hoes, please. Hoes can be gender neutral. That could mean men, women, or non-binary folk. Just get some hoes, please. Like, this movie is so good. And the fact that I've seen being like, oh, it's not as good as Cars, I'll slap the shit out of you. The only reason Turning Red is not higher is because it didn't make me cry. Next, we're getting into the top 10, and number 10 is the first Toy Story. Now, this is the very first movie that I watched in this little marathon, and it has somehow remained as one of the best for the entire time. Like, it's insane. Pixar came in the door kicking it down with characters that are so insanely lovable that you can't help but just memorize all of their iconic lines and personalities, to a story that, while simple, delves deeply into themes outside of just what is literally there, to visuals that, yes, while the animation isn't as good as it can be, it has some iconic shots, and a soundtrack that is just, oh, so sonically beautiful. Toy Story successfully said, yeah, Pixar's the shit, we're great. And I said Turning Red didn't enter the top 10 because it didn't make me cry. Toy Story made me cry. It's insane. How the hell did you do that? It's somehow a mix of the childish aesthetics with the music to the just emotional deep digging that the story is doing that just causes a tear to form in my eye. Toy Story is really good. Don't sleep on it. Next, number 9 is Toy Story 4. Toy Story 4, as a send-off to the franchise, is great, and I will not hear anything else. It successfully grows up with the audience and tells them a message that is so godly important that just makes this movie the most needed sequel that doesn't look needed. Like, Jesus Christ. Toy Story got 4 movies, and all 4 of them were important and necessary for the story, and Incredibles couldn't get a goddamn sequel without it being garbage. I'm sorry for yelling, y'all. I apologize. But what Toy Story 4 does with Woody's character is really good. Now, the other characters in the film are not as amazing as they are in their other appearances. They don't have as many standoff moments, but I think this is Woody's movie. This is a great send-off to Woody as a character and to the Toy Story franchise. I deadass do not want a 5th one. They would probably make it really great, but I don't want a 5th one because the fact that this is the last one is so important. And the weirdest thing is that the part where I cried had nothing to do with Woody or the toys or them saying goodbye or even any of the protagonists. It was just a moment that just echoed the themes of the franchise so loudly that I couldn't help but cry like a baby. It's the scene where this little girl is lost, and the toy that the little girl picks up eventually helps comfort her, and that causes her to find her family. And I would probably need days to write exactly why this just showcases the themes of the Toy Story franchise as a whole in a single scene, but my heart immediately got it. I was like, this is what Toy Story is. This is the feeling that Toy Story gives you, and this is beautiful. And I cried because it was a good scene. It was a great scene. It scenes like that reminded me, oh shit, Pixar can do great things when they put in the effort to make great art. Next, number 8 is Finding Nemo. Finding Nemo as a movie is a good vibe. It's the nice story of a father trying to look for his son. It's a story about love, and it's a story about family, which I am very biased to. But it's not just the story, it's the fact that the characters are likable. And it's the atmosphere, the setting of the ocean, and the music that follows it just makes it amazing. And they successfully have a protagonist in Marlin that is so interesting. He's not your typical hero. He's not young. He's a middle-aged man with a lot of issues. He's not the greatest dad, especially in the beginning, but they get you to care about him and to understand him. And the moment where I cried in Finding Nemo was when he truly thought he lost his son. You could feel what he was feeling because you went through the journey he went through. You've seen the struggles. And you're like, yeah, no, you feel this, man. Feel this. And that's all I gotta say. And I think that's a big reason why people don't like Finding Dory, because the first movie is this good. It is this artistically resonant with the audience. Finding Nemo is really good. Next, number 7 is Toy Story 2. That's an unpopular opinion.
How is Toy Story 2 not the best Toy Story movie?
Shut up. As the sequel to the first Toy Story film, it had some big shoes to fill, and holy it broke the shoes. Everything they did in Toy Story 1, they did in Toy Story 2, but better. The characters, they're really great in Toy Story 1. They're made even more great in Toy Story 2 because we explore them more. The story, it's really good in Toy Story 1. It's even greater in Toy Story 2 since they focus way more on the toys and the world around them. The visuals, the animation's better and it still has excellent shots. The music, it's even better, I'd say. I'm not gonna spend a million hours on this movie because everyone knows this movie. But let me just say this. The moment I cried in Toy Story 2, you're probably expecting it, is Jesse's backstory. Because that whole scene is basically looking you in the face and saying, this is the theme of the movie. This is the theme of the movie. F*** you, cry. And I listened, I cried. The entire film is way more fun, the scope is way bigger, and that just makes it more epic in a way. So yeah, Toy Story 2 is really good. Next, number 6 is Monsters, Inc. I love Monsters, Inc. Monsters, Inc. is really good. It's a good movie, and honestly, I don't know what to say. You know, recording this, it seems pretty repetitive, in a way. A lot of the great Pixar films just do the same things. They have great characters, a great story, great visuals, and great music. But why did I put Monsters, Inc. above Toy Story 2? And the simple reason is I just prefer Mike and Sully in this movie over the characters in Toy Story 2. It's the fact that they're adults. They're working men. They're not children, and they're not toys that play for children. They are people working with lives, and you can just feel that in how they talk. It's their interactions. Then, once Boo gets introduced, the relationship between her, Mike, and Sully is just amazing. Even without much dialogue, you feel the emotions that Boo feels, and you're like, I need to protect this little girl. It's like what anime fans on Twitter feel, except I'm not a creep. Also, the antagonist in Monsters, Inc. is just fun. He's just a fun guy. He's there, he's doing some chaotic stuff, and every scene he's in, he just elevates it. It's really enjoyable. It's a good movie. And the moment that made me cry was the very end. When Sully opens that door, and that is the end of the movie, the credits roll, I was like, yeah, this is good. This is a good movie. So yeah. Next, we are getting into the top 5. Number 5 is Toy Story 3. With everything Toy Story 3 had to do, and everything it then did on top of that, the fact that it's great, yeah, it's the best one. It not only had the characters from the first two, but had to introduce like twice as many new ones. It had to end everyone's character arc in a satisfying way. It had to emotionally connect us to easily one of the best antagonists in Pixar's catalog. I haven't thought about the list yet, but he's up there. And Spanish Buzz is funny. I don't care what you say. Spanish Buzz is funny. I laughed very hard. I'm a grown man. You can't tell me what to do. And the part that made me cry, and this is probably why it's in my top 5, is when Andy is giving the toys to Bonnie. And even though I watched these movies all in one sitting, I felt like I grew up with Andy. I felt like I watched him. And when he was talking about the toys and describing them, and you could just see the feeling in his eyes. And it really hit because you were like, yeah, he's right. I know these characters. He wasn't describing these toys for the audience. In a way, we, the audience, through Andy, were describing the toys to Bonnie. We were saying goodbye. And even with Toy Story 4 existing, this movie is still a beautiful conclusion to the trilogy. And maybe it's because I'm going to college soon. But just the idea of growing up in this movie is so well executed. I was crying like a baby. But yeah, Toy Story 3 is the last 4 out of 5. Next, we're going to the very first movie that I think is a masterpiece. Number 4 is Coco. Coco is a good-ass movie, and I don't care what anyone says, it's underrated. Coco easily has one of my favorite casts in, the recent years of Pixar movies. The story is intriguing from beginning to end. I've seen this movie like a million times. The visuals, oh my god. Jesus. Oh, what? This movie's beautiful. The soundtrack? Yeah, it's amazing. What? I can't give Coco anything less than a 5 out of 5. There's not a single thing in this movie I don't like. And the emotions it gets out of you? Oh my god, the final remember me? Jeez Louise. It's also the vibes. The exploration of Mexican culture through a fantasy world that doesn't, belittle the culture and actually educates the audience a little bit. There's a lot of stuff I didn't know before I seen this movie. Just makes it all the more interesting. Like, this movie is great. And I don't care what you say. This movie deserves a 5 out of 5. It is like the best Pixar movie that I would consider the most Pixar movie, if that makes sense. I mean, you're gonna get it anyway when we go on to the next. Number 3 is WALL-E. I think we all saw this coming, right? We all love WALL-E. And I was saying Coco is the greatest, most Pixar movie because WALL-E and the other 2 films I have in the top 3 all sort of give independent vibes. The first good chunk of WALL-E is essentially a silent film. I had subtitles on, which is wild. He's actually saying shit, but it's essentially a silent film, and it just conveys the story so well. Then the rest of the movie, oh my god, this story is amazing, and it's important. It's about love, but it's also about the environment, which is deathly important. I'm not preaching, I'm being honest. The corporations, dude. And then just the music and the visuals, like every shot in WALL-E is a 10 out of 10. The visuals, the music, then the characters. There are a few characters, and that's the only reason it's number 3 and not number 1 or 2, is because there's 1 or 2 characters I couldn't care for. The antagonist, I didn't really care for. But the fact that everything else is perfect and that the relationship between WALL-E and Eve is so well executed, they're barely talking. And it is the best relationship I have seen in an animated movie, period. I would put it above Your Name, which is my favorite animated film of all time. So yeah, WALL-E's really good. And the moment I cried was that final scene where Eve is desperately begging for WALL-E to come back. And I was like, oh no, baby girl. Which is wild. I don't think I've called an inanimate object baby girl more times than when I watch WALL-E. So I think that's why it deserves a 5, because it got me saying that shit. But yeah, WALL-E is a masterpiece. Next. Just roll the music. The Incredibles is a goddamn masterpiece. The Incredibles is the greatest superhero film ever created, and no one is ever going to top it. You want to know why it's the greatest? Here's why. The story. It's a beautiful story, not only deconstructing superheroes, but also society in general. It is a beautiful story that not only tells the story of like how superheroes evolve, how society evolves, but how family grows and comes together within tragedy. The story is excellent and the writing is top tier. Every single line is quotable. Every single line hits in so many layers. That is amazing. Then we have the characters. There's not a single character in this movie that isn't great. There was not a single one. From the actual family, to the antagonists, to the boss, to the little ass kid that has like a single like page of dialogue, I think even less. These are all amazing characters that are endlessly iconic. And did you, like, where is my super suit? You know Frozone. Go into the street. Everyone knows Frozone. Jesus Christ. Then we have the visuals. The visuals are amazing. Every single shot is beautiful. It's like a painting. The aesthetics, the whole 1950s, 1960s Art Deco art style totally fits the superhero vibe because it's camp. It's campy. It's not your edgy Zack Snyder or your New 52 or even your 90s mullet Superman dark style. It's your Silver Age, it's your Golden Age superheroes, and it just gives that vibe. And the soundtrack, oh my god, this is the greatest soundtrack in, I'm gonna say it, in cinema history. There are no misses. There are no misses in this film soundtrack. I'm not even editing this part. This is all off the cuff. I don't have a script. I didn't have a script this entire video. It's all off my head. This movie is beautiful. Its uses of jazz and big band music is just, I could write an entire essay on why the soundtrack is amazing, dude. The soundtrack, Jesus Christ. The Incredibles is a perfect 5 out of 5 film. It is a masterpiece, and it is one of the best movies I have seen in my goddamn life. The moment where I cried, the entire movie, from scene 1 to the final scene, I was crying because it was so beautiful. I was in shock that a human being could make a movie that is just so perfect, that does everything I love about superheroes and animated movies in one sitting. And it was one of the first ones I watched. Jesus. However, number 1 is Ratatouille. But chill, you just went on this big ass rant on why The Incredibles was a masterpiece. And I do agree, The Incredibles is still a masterpiece. But it's not on Ratatouille's level. And this is gonna seem superficial, but Ratatouille just hit different, yo. It just hit different. Like, this feels so insanely personal. We're just following this rat cooking. Like, think about that. Like, look at the premises of all these other movies. You know, superheroes, robots, the afterlife, monsters. What if toys came to life? What if fish could talk and explore the ocean? You know, sea creatures, like fantasy, like cars. Ratatouille is about a rat cooking in Paris. That's it. He doesn't want to be the best chef in the world. He doesn't go to the chef competition. He doesn't fight other rats. There isn't an evil rat conspiracy. It's just a rat who wants to cook. And he does. And the love and care put into this movie in every inch is something I cannot describe. I really can't. Like, I don't think if I was given a year that I could make a single video explaining every reason why Ratatouille just hit different. And I think that's the message of this overall stuff. You know, I joke around, but you can think that any of these movies is the best one just because you do. I mean, if it's Cars, I'm not going to respect you, but that's aside from the point. And when I was watching Ratatouille, I was like, this is good. It's not as good as The Incredibles, though. For the entire film. Until that final scene and that high note hit. And instantly I started crying. And I knew Ratatouille was something special. It wasn't a character death. It wasn't an emotional family moment. It was just that this movie was a vibe that you are not going to get often. And the fact that Pixar did this, the fact that Pixar did a lot of these movies, just showcases the artistry within that studio. So, in my opinion, and funnily enough, entirely based on vibes, Ratatouille is the greatest Pixar film ever made. I did it. I ranked and reviewed every single Pixar movie in chronological release order. And I'm tired. That was my video for the year. I don't think I'm making another one of these. And don't you dare ask for any other studios in the comments. I will actually start fighting. But this experience was good. You know, I got to watch a bunch of movies, I got to watch a bunch of animation, and I got to talk about it all. Which, you know, even though I don't post a lot, I still love animation. And this just enhanced my appreciation for it. You know? So I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want to support me, the best thing you can do is listen to my music. I put a lot of effort into it, and I try to release an AMV at least once a month. I might miss a few, but you know, that'll support me. Yeah, follow me on Twitter. I tweet funny and also important stuff. Follow me on Instagram. I post pictures of myself in drippy outfits. Swag. Follow me on Soundcloud. I post music. And just subscribe for more content if I ever make any more. Comment down your thoughts. What's your personal ranking? Comment that down. I'm glad I came back for this. So, if you guys liked, commented, and subscribed, and shared with your friends, I hope that all of you have a damn good one. Peace.